All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a hard look at massive internet trends. Manifestation, lucky girl syndrome, all of that. But we're going to do something a little different here. We're looking at this strictly through a clinical psychological lens. We see this stuff everywhere, right? This idea that if you just think positively enough, boom, you attract wealth, health, and success. But as mental health professionals, we really have to ask, what is actually happening in our brains when we do this? Is it genuinely helpful, or are we just walking right into a psychological trap? Which brings us to the big question, is manifestation actually bad for your mental health? Now look, magical thinking feels amazing, especially when life is totally chaotic. It feels incredibly empowering. But we really have to ask ourselves if pretending we already have everything we want is supporting our psychological health, or if it's secretly harming it. The research tells us that while optimism is generally a great thing, relying on pseudoscientific methods to control the completely uncontrollable, well, it sets us up for massive emotional dysregulation when those wishes inevitably fall flat. And that pressure to be positive literally all the time, it completely invalidates our genuine, messy human emotions. It's like telling a grieving friend, hey, good vibes only. It leads directly to what we in the field call toxic positivity. Suppressing painful feelings or difficult thoughts doesn't magically make them vanish. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Trying to force a positive mindset 24/7 causes a rebound effect. It ironically increases negative thinking and can actually catalyze severe mental health issues like depression and anxiety. And this brings us to a highly dangerous clinical trap known as thought-action fusion. This is the pseudoscientific belief that just having a thought can directly cause external things to happen in the real world. Clinically speaking, this is a known major risk factor for anxiety, eating disorders, and OCD. Think about it. If you mistakenly believe that having a completely normal, fleeting, maybe scary thought, like suddenly picturing a car crash, means you are actively making that crash happen, you're going to experience an intense, completely unnecessary amount of distress. So here is the absolute crux of the issue. Positive, surface-level conscious affirmations simply cannot overpower your deep-seated subconscious beliefs. You can stand in front of a mirror and consciously repeat, I am wealthy, I am successful, all day long. But if your subconscious deeply believes you are unworthy or incapable, those affirmations are practically useless. True psychological health requires us to look way beneath the surface. Just to put this into perspective, look at this staggering number, 50,000. Your subconscious mind processes information roughly 50,000 times faster than your conscious mind. Let that sink in. This means your deep underlying beliefs will always win a tug of war against mere conscious, wishful thinking. You literally cannot out-affirm a subconscious system that's operating at that kind of speed. So how does your brain even manage all that subconscious data? Meet the reticular activating system, or your RAS. I like to think of the RAS as your brain's bouncer. It acts as a massive filter, prioritizing information in your environment that reinforces what your subconscious already believes, and it just ignores the rest. So if your subconscious believes you're destined to fail, your RAS will literally filter out opportunities for success. It makes you completely blind to them, no matter how intensely you try to manifest. But this internal psychological trap, it spills right over into our external environment too. There's a massive flaw in manifestation culture, and it's the friction between individual blame and real systemic barriers. If you fail to manifest success, this culture often tells you it's your own fault for not believing hard enough. But as clinicians, we know this completely ignores very real external systemic barriers that crush mental well-being, things like deep-seated poverty or discrimination. This quote from former therapist Alyssa McLean really hits the nail on the head. How can I tell an unhoused person that they can think their way into a new home? Right? Telling marginalized groups that they can just think their way out of deeply rooted systemic issues isn't just unrealistic, it's profoundly dismissive of the actual brutal struggles they face every day. It assumes a level of societal privilege that simply does not exist for everyone. Taking this a step further, claiming we solely attract our circumstances unfairly places the entire burden of change right on the shoulders of oppressed people. And you know what else it does? It completely releases the liability of the oppressor. It lets unjust societal and structural power systems entirely off the hook, basically whispering, hey, if you're struggling, you just didn't manifest hard enough. It's incredibly toxic. So how do we treat the anxiety and toxic productivity caused by all this? We have to shift our framework away from passive manifestation and move towards psychologist Carol Dweck's proven concept of the growth mindset. Unlike manifestation, which is basically just wishing for an outcome, a growth mindset zeroes in on effort, resilience, embracing challenges, and actually utilizing neuroplasticity, which is your brain's literal ability to rewire itself through continuous learning and action. Clinically speaking, we can actually use our brain's natural architecture to help build this growth mindset. Enter the default mode network, or DMN. This is the brain network that lights up when you're daydreaming or visualizing. It's basically a prediction machine, simulating future outcomes based on your past experiences. Now, when you're feeling completely overwhelmed by toxic productivity or shame, a really simple mindfulness technique, like naming 3 things you can see and touch right there in your room, can actually pause this network's anxiety loop. And once you're grounded in reality, we can use the DMN's prediction mechanics to visualize ourselves taking proactive, resilient action. Because when we use evidence-based visualization correctly, meaning we focus on the process and the effort, not just some magical end result, it triggers a super healthy process called neural priming. This physically strengthens your prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making. At the same time, it reduces fear responses in your amygdala and builds resilience in your anterior cingulate cortex. You aren't just wishing, you are literally training your brain to take action. And neuroscientists have actually found a specific biological hack for this. The 5 to 10 minute window right before you fall asleep and right after you wake up, those are the prime clinical windows to rewrite your DMN settings. That is exactly when you want to input the emotional state of your ideal growing self, rather than tossing and turning, replaying past failures, or agonizing over the future. But to really make this work, we have to address those subconscious barriers we talked about earlier. There's a fantastic cognitive behavioral therapy exercise for this, called the BUT workshop. It's super simple. First, write down your specific goal. Next, add the word but with an ellipsis to the end of that sentence. And then just let your brain automatically fill in the blank. Whatever comes out, those are your deep-seated fears. Those are the subconscious blocking beliefs that are actually getting in your way. Because as this clinical metaphor so perfectly captures, continuing affirmations without looking at these is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it. You absolutely have to patch the hole first. You do that by reframing those negative buts into actionable hows, turning "but I'm not smart enough" into "how can I learn this new skill?" Trying to use positive affirmations to change your life without first auditing and updating your core subconscious blocks is, frankly, completely futile. So what does a real, actionable treatment plan look like? We recommend these 4 steps to transition out of magical thinking and step into grounded, value-aligned behavioral transformation. First, clarify your intentions and routines. Second, accept that negative thoughts are entirely natural. Please don't suppress them. Third, align your daily behavioral actions with those intentions. And fourth, keep that intention front of mind every single day. Clinical examples show us time and again that these deep identity shifts, moving from someone who just wishes to someone who acts, are what actually build long-term mental health and sustainable resilience. So instead of passively wishing for the universe to fix things or shaming yourself when systemic barriers inevitably make life hard, I want to leave you with this. What core value will you actively choose to align your proactive growth with today? Because when you shift from wishing to acting and from toxic positivity to genuine hard-earned resilience, well, that is when true psychological transformation actually begins. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.
That's all for today, beautiful souls. Before you go, if today's message resonated with you, I left something in the description that acts almost like a spiritual mirror. It's a personalized numerology experience that looks at your life path, strengths, repeating patterns, and timing. No pressure, just something fascinating if you enjoy this kind of self-discovery. Check the description if you want to explore it. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and follow for more angel number insights, spiritual mindset upgrades, and manifestation wisdom. Thanks for supporting and watching. Have a great day.